Good time. My name is Tim Thompson. I'm the current president of the foundation. I just want to welcome everybody here this evening. This is our first of what we hope to be many fundraisers for Calvert Hall and for the boys that play football there. First of all, I'd like to recognize Brother Kevin, president of the school, and Lou Heydrich. We're just delighted to have you both here this evening. Can't thank you enough for coming. After that, I'd like to acknowledge Joey Carloza, whose idea this was several years ago. And after Joey, Mike Heil, and then Bruce Wills helped me out tremendously. And for the past several years, I was sending out letters once a year, and checks would come in, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and we'd go to the coach and say, how do you want this money used? And we've decided to take it to another level. And a lot of you think that we're here tonight to raise money for the football team, and we're going to try and do that. But we did a survey of all the coaches in Baltimore, and we found that Jay Robinson's got them all beat hands down. He's teaching 7 courses, and coaching football and having fun. And do you know that the closest coach to him is teaching like 2 gym classes? I mean, that's it. So anyway, he's never complained. He actually likes teaching 7 classes. But we figured that'll all change before tonight's up. We just hope he doesn't be fired. But some people don't think about these things. Anyway. Also, like to recognize Dave Shannon, who actually I had the pleasure of being coached by, and great inspiration to myself and a lot of guys from class of '71 and in that era. Let me see. Also, like to recognize Rick Jacklich. Rick has just been a great inspiration to me over the years. Somebody who shows what it is to really just give, I guess, according to your ability, and never wanted to be patted on the back or anything, and just kind of like, I don't know, in the Jewish sense, it's called a mitzvah or something. I mean, you just give, and if something comes back, great, but you don't anticipate it. So it's just a good thing. So years ago, what we did was we sent out letters. Money would come in, and we'd go to the school, and Tom Bateman called me up, I don't know, I want to say about 6 months ago. He saw I sent out a letter saying we'd really like to raise $50,000 this year. And he said, hey, I'd like to talk to you about that. And I said, great, Tom. And we got together, and this is all Tom Bateman's idea. And we decided if we were going to do it, we really would need a good committee. And we've had a wonderful bunch of guys working. It hasn't been a huge bunch, but Joe McCann has stepped up, and Rick Barnabas has been in a couple meetings, and Richie Ryan has taken over the reins as Secretary Treasurer and just done a great job. But it dawned on me tonight that a lot of people in this room have always heard there's no I in team, but I figured out on the way over here there is a team in Bateman. And Bateman, hands down, is the team that put this together tonight. And I'd really like to just... He is the man. I'm going to turn it right over to him. You won't hear another word from me all night. But Dave Heckle said to me coming in the room, he says, when you get a personal phone call, he said, you get up and come. So I'm sure most of you in this room have been called by Tom Bateman, because there were a lot of us on the committee that didn't make the calls we were supposed to make. So, here you go, Tom. Thank you.
Well, as I say to everybody who says things to me about football, I say just be loyal or don't come back. So it doesn't matter what else you say. Actually, Timmy has already introduced some people that I had planned on doing, but I would like for these people to stand briefly, and no applause needed. Tim, you've already been introduced to as the president. Rick Barnabas, the vice president. Rick, I don't know where you're hiding, but okay. Rich Ryan, Secretary Treasurer. You are here, aren't you? Yeah. Way in the back, okay. Joe Slifka is on his way. Bruce Wills, past president. I know that he's here. Banquet Committee people, Joe McCann, Jay Robinson, Coach Robinson, Rob Rubino, Richie Ryan. Past presidents from this organization. Joe Carlozzo, 1995-96. Where are you hiding? Michael Howell followed him, 1996-97. Bruce Wills was 97 through 2002. And now Tim is current president for the last 2 years. Marty Blair, are you here? Okay, Board of Trustees, I wanted to introduce Marty. Dave Marshall, Board of Trustees, somewhere in the room. Otis Warren, your dad, where are you, Otis? His dad is directly in the center. His dad is also in the Board of Board of Trustees. Otis is the class of 95. Joe Natton's class of 85 is in our Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame, what a guy! Mr. Hall of Fame. Mr. Hall of Fame. All right, Joe.
Well, we're
Instead of being embarrassed, it's my son Jeff who's in the hall.
Jeff. You are now.
Hall of Fame. All right, there it is.
You know, actually, I think they were making fun of me right from the beginning. I realized that when they started with the stuff on me back there. Past alumni presidents are here. Actually, Sean Casserly is the current alumni president. He is here in the middle of the room. Art Casserly. Art was alumni president from 83 through 87 and didn't wise up, came back from 91 through 93. Joe Natton's 89 to 91.
All right, Joe, again, Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame.
Did I have the right one? Oh, thank you. And Leo Welsh from 96 to 99. Some other personalities that you may recognize. We have the head coach from Towson University, Gordy Combs, who's been there for many, many years. Over at Boys Latin, Jenny Sandusky is here. Archbishop Curley, defensive coordinator, Mike Heil. I know he's not here, but he's expected to be here, and I understand he's a newly appointed coach over at Cardinal Gibbons, Donald Davis from the class of 95. Now, I had a little trouble getting these coaches from Curley and Boys Latin. I had a little trouble. They said, well, you know, it's kind of a conflict of interest to come here and I coach over there. I said, well, listen, you aren't going to coach at Boys Latin all your life. You're not going to coach at Curley all your life. But you are a Calvert Hall guy all your life. I said, I'll be here. In your program, there's a short story called The Kissing Tree. The author of that story is here, John Dowd from the class of 58. John, where are you? And I certainly have to introduce the 1969 trio from that famous field goal group. The snapper, Bruce Wills, is here, holder, Phil Popovic, and the kicker, Phil Marsiglia. Did you guys let us know who you are? Well, Phil, don't do this, please. Donald Bushman, I haven't checked to see if he came in yet. Donald, are you here? President of the Men of Calvert Hall. New group. Is it 2 years now we've had the group? We're in the third year. President back there. Bo Hatter, did you walk in behind me? I didn't see you. Where are you? Bo is generously donated the design and expense for this program, the cover of the program. He is sitting in the back, class of 75. I won't tell him. I won't tell him that you're going to be JV football coach at Loyola next year. He's redeeming himself. We got the program. Come on, man. You've been introduced to Brother Kevin. Lou Hybrid, the principal, has served for 20 plus, I don't know how many years, 20 at least, in administration, probably 40 at Calvert Hall, but he's principal now in his second year. He's been assistant principal of the academics, been assistant principal of student affairs. And I think that you know him. He's up here at the first table. Former head coaches that are here. Fred Kern is expected to be here. Joe Carlos, a senior, would like to have been here, but it's a distance for him to come, so he couldn't, and Jody is here representing him. Augie Maselli, head coach from 74 through 87. Bill Mackley, 88 through 93. And your 1974 graduate, head coach Jay Robinson. There are quite a few assistant coaches that are here that I'm not introduced, but I do need to recognize one fellow, even though that Timmy has mentioned him. One fellow who's retiring in about 2 weeks after 36 years. I know it's at least 36 years at Calvert Hall. Dave Shannon was the mainstay of this football program under Augie Maselli for most of Augie's 101 wins. I think I have the right number here. Before Augie became the head coach, David was also the mainstay for Coach Carlozzo's program, heading the defense there, scouting, keeping things calm and quiet, especially me during the Thanksgiving game. Many of you here played for Coach Shannon. He's come here to say goodbye, so I want to recognize Coach. Would you please stand? Our agenda now for the evening is this. Lou Heidrich will give the invocation in a moment. After that is done, then the banquet manager will come in and take over the instructions as to how you're going to divide up in which direction that you're going. Once dinner has concluded, we will have some people speaking. Those people are in your program, so I'm not going to repeat their names now. And I promise to make it 45 minutes, 50 minutes at most with the people who are speaking, so that you're not sitting here thinking this is 1994 and you're listening to Dave Parr go on for 2 hours. So, well, some of you remember. After the people present, then there will be a coffee and dessert bar at the latter half of the evening. So, Lou, if you want to do the invocation.
Good evening, everyone. Just before I say the prayer, I don't know if the foundation or Tom picked tonight for a special reason, but we celebrated at school today St. LaSalle Day, and we had a liturgy, and we had the former Superior General of the Christian Brothers speak to the students. And part of his homily was about the hallmark of a Calvert Hall graduate. I won't go through his whole homily, but one of the things that he said is that the young men leave Calvert Hall, go out into the community and make a mark, and then give back to the community. And certainly when I look around this room tonight, we must be doing a pretty good job at school, so I appreciate everything that you have done and will do for the school. Let's remember we're in the holy presence of God. God our Father, as we celebrate this evening, let us pause to give you thanks for the many blessings you have bestowed on Calvert community. We thank you for our student athletes and all they have learned both in the classroom and on the field. We thank you for all the time and effort that is put in towards the benefit of the young men, of their parents, our coaches, and our teachers. And especially we thank you for the loyalty and support of those present tonight. Finally, we ask you to bless this food, to bless those that prepared it, and as always, remember those less fortunate than ourselves. We ask all these things in your name. Amen. St. John Baptist de LaSalle, live Jesus in our hearts.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Grey Rock Mansion. My name is Todd Sanzo, and I'm the event manager here for Simply Elegant Catering. We're going to invite you all to the buffet, 1 or 2 tables at a time. Please remain seated until I or one of my staff has come around to invite you into the buffet. And welcome again.
not anything to do with football because he didn't play football there. Mel was a really decent second baseman and played JV, and I remember growing up and playing against him 12-14 ball. There was a lot of competition back then, and Mel was a good athlete. Later on, as I got older and you're following sports, all of a sudden you start hearing the name Mel Kiper. And next thing you know, he's on ESPN. And you look back at the history of it, Mel started out with one of those old big dishes I remember he got and put it on his rooftop and tried to watch those games all over the country, and he's taking notes. And he did it so well that he caught attention of a lot of football coaches and scouts around the country. And they really acknowledged that Mel was an excellent eye for talent and did a great job. And Mel was a typical Calvert Hall person in the part that he really worked his job. He really gave 100%, and he totally dedicated himself. And it shows what you can do from not even playing a sport to being such an expert on it. That he's on ESPN today. You can turn WBAL on. I think it's 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the afternoon and hear Mel doing ESPN Game Day on the radio. And Mel is a tribute to Calvert Hall because he does work so hard. He does typify a lot of people and athletes that play the sport at Calvert Hall where we don't have the God-given best ability, but we give 100% at what we do. And it shows in the final result. Ladies and gentlemen, Mel Kiper.
I want to thank Tom Bateman because, like I say, without Tom and what he's meant to Calvert Hall all through the years, nothing like this would have ever existed. So, Tom, and I see so many familiar faces. Just when we were out here from Scott Manning, Scotty, we had a lot of years even before Calvert Hall playing baseball in the various leagues and all the various people. Mike Heil has been a friend of mine for years with the family, and all the various teachers that were there for me when, at the time when I was at Calvert Hall, I put out very seriously, if any teachers would have thought that 20 years from now I would have been any success or had any success in the business world. But when I look back at Calvert Hall, when you look back at what those 4 years meant, I started the business at 18. Right after Calvert Hall. Scotty, when we were at that mixer that year and doing everything, the next year I was running the business. And I look back at what Calvert Hall meant to me. Without it, I'd be nothing. Because I look back at those 4 years, even when I'm on the road now on College Game Day and going to the various campuses, everybody talks about what high school they went to and what their high school meant to them. Not necessarily what college they went to, but what high school. And I always bring up Calvert Hall, and you bring up the names like the Vince Kinney and the Steve Dorsey, Joe Carlos, and all the great players, but now Juan Dixon, of course. But I think for me, to be able to run a business at 18 and have that ability to do something without the benefit of college, I was going there at the time, but still running the business, Calvert Hall meant so much to me in my life. And I don't think you appreciate it until now, at 42, to look back and say, when you come out of Calvert Hall, you say, okay, what did I really, what's going to assist me down the road? Well, obviously there was something there along the way that you don't know until years later that kind of forms you as what you are in business, how you deal with people along the way, and things of the like. And I think what Joe Slifka was saying about, coming up through the ranks, so many friends that you know from age 10 through now 42 that went to Calvert Hall and what it's meant to them in their lives. And I was at a game, Florida Ole Miss, this year down in Oxford. And for Friday, we were at production meetings, and one of the producers said, there was a kid who went to Calvert Hall with you. He's out here. He was out here at the game. And what the heck could that be? It was Kurt Reed, who a lot of us know, went to Dartmouth after finishing at Calvert Hall, played football at Dartmouth. Kurt, his brother Ray, they planned a trip once a year to go to a college campus. Just so happened that year, this past year, they were at the Florida Ole Miss game. This next year, they'll be at Texas for Colorado, Texas. And you run into Calvert Hall people everywhere. And I think that's where, it's a small world, they say, and it really is true that for Calvert Hall and what it's meant to me, I look back and there's not enough that I could give back to redeem Calvert Hall and show the appreciation I have for the school, what it's meant to me throughout my life. And I think when you look at now the football program, with what Jay Robinson has done, for the program, and I go back to, like I said, when I'm on those college campuses, everybody talks about what's your high school doing today? What's the football team doing Friday night under the lights, or what are they doing Saturday? And now you can look back and say, Calvert Hall's winning football games, they're beating Loyola, and it's something to be proud of. And I think I always say football, if you have the right head coach. And Gordy Combs is a good friend of mine. Towson University has the right head coach. Gordy Combs has done a remarkable job. And Jay Robinson here at Calvert Hall. When you have the right head coach, you go over through the years. Moggy Maselli went up through. Calvert Hall's had a lot of great head coaches. And now I think everybody's fortunate to say that Jay Robinson, what he's going to do in terms of the foundation that's being built and the winning that's going to take place, the future is very bright. And now all of a sudden, what we need now is the ability to bring in that kind of talent to allow not Gilman or St. Joe or any other schools that have the great athletes, but particularly Gilman, but rather Calvert Hall to steal the spotlight here in this Baltimore area. So guys like Tom Lemming, who scouts, and everybody knows Tom Lemming around the country for what he does evaluating high school kids. We'll look at Calvert Hall, and this program will get national publicity. And I look forward to the day on College Game Day when I can talk about what Calvert Hall is doing on a Saturday, instead of everybody else talking about the Mathas and what's happening at Gilman, or with Abria Mary and Ambrose Wooden, that the athletes from Calvert Hall will be discussed on that national level. And I think it's happening now. And I think for Jay Robinson, what he's doing for Calvert Hall is going to be big. And I really believe that. I think what Gordy Combs has done at Towson, all the Calvert Hall guys and what they've meant throughout the years. But for right now, the future, obviously, at Calvert Hall with the football program, I think is huge. So I appreciate what Jay's done. I think we all do. And now all of a sudden we need the money to come in so these kids can come to Calvert Hall to benefit from the education and the athletics, which has always been very balanced at Calvert Hall throughout those years, will always be in the future. Balance academics with athletics and develop these kids for their future. And I just want to open it up. Anybody has any, obviously the NFL draft is finished now. Unfortunately for us, it was a long couple weeks, but the Ravens, I thought, did a really good job. Phil Savage, I was hoping to be able to bring Phil out tonight, but he's obviously busy with minicamp forthcoming. But Phil does a heck of a job, Ozzie Newsome, and they did a good job on draft day, in my opinion, even though I wasn't a huge Kyle Bowler fan, where they were able to pick up Kyle Bowler, giving up next year's #1. Did make sense. So if anybody out there has any other questions of any teams, feel free.
Compare Bowler to Leftwich.
Kyle Bowler, Jay, is a gifted talent. I think that's what really, caught the eye of Brian Billick and Matt Cavanaugh, that he is a tools quarterback. I mean, he can do anything you want physically. Big, great arm, 4'6" speed at 235 pounds. The thing that bothered me was, with all the gifts he had, he entered the year with a 6th round grade. And you say, well, how can that be? Well, he had obviously a 45% completion percentage, then 48, then 49, so always below 50. Then this past year, Jeff Tedford came in, who was the quarterback guru, had developed Trent Dilfer, had developed Achilles Smith, and all the great quarterbacks along the way at the college level. And he tweaked mechanics, and all of a sudden Bowler improved. But I think that's the key. Will Matt Cavanaugh continue to keep this kid on the right path from a mechanics?
And I know Donald Davis came in a little while ago from a track meet. Is he in this hall right now, though? Where is it? Where's Donald? Donald, can you? Donald is 95 graduate. 96 graduate. Just been appointed the head coach at Cardinal Gibbons High School. And his wife is here with him. Where is she hiding? So we have coaches here from Boys Latin, from Loyola, from Cardinal Gibbons, from Archbishop Curley, and about 20 of them from Calvert Hall. I wanted to mention, I failed to mention earlier, that the mugs that have the candies in there, they're yours. They are the prom favors for you to take home. Oh, and the Cardinal football decals, okay, so that you can let people know where you're from. Also, a website I didn't mention earlier. We have a website that's been up for about 10 days now. It is pretty simple, calverthallfootball.com. It's about 75% where we want it at this time, but I'm sure you'll all go on and this evening and log on to that, calverthallfootball.com. We do have every roster from 1940 on, so when you were 140 pounds, you'll find yourself somewhere among that sophomore group there. Jay Robinson, 1974. Jay Robinson, 1974, Calvert Hall graduate. Played for Joe Carlozo, whose assistants were Dave Shannon and myself. He came back to the Hall in 1999, but while Jay was not at Calvert Hall, he was the defensive back coach 1979 to 1991 at Towson University. I keep saying Towson State. There they won 3 Lambert Cups, 3 NCAA Division II playoff appearances under Phil Albert. From 1992 to 97, the offensive coordinator under Gordy Combs, who is here from Towson. They were top 10 total offense 3 of 7 years in Division I AA. Jay was the 1998 Director of Football Operations at the University of Maryland for Ron Vanderlinden. In Jay's second year back at Calvert Hall, we were 9-1, number 5 in the metro area, beat Loyola 7-6. In 2001, we were 7-3, ranked number 9 in the area, beat Loyola 10-3. This year we were 10-1, ranked number 3 in the metro area, number 5 in the state, beat Loyola 21-10. I give you your head coach, Jay Robinson.
Okay, we got some ideas here about how we can get better still. And the first thing we're going to do is get Kuiper to start scouting for the 6th, 7th, 8th graders. He's such a great talent scout in his level. I'm sure he would help us out as well. The other thing we can do is promote our camp. And if any of you guys have sons from age 11 to 16 and want to send them to a good football camp, we have one. So you can get on that website at Calvert Hall, www.calverthall, and send your son to camp. Let's make sure we're clear on a couple things. One, we're excited about the football program at Calvert Hall, but there is a lot of great things going on at the school other than football. You know, our forensics team is kicking butt all over the country. I could go on and on about all the great things that are going on at Calvert Hall. I'm just happy to be a small part of it. And, you know, it's not about me. You know, my name may be on the front of some things. I'm just the point guy. You know, it's really our program. Because the tradition of Calvert Hall has so much depth and character to it. You can't just put a person's name on it and say it's his team or that team. It's our program. And I'm just excited to be a small part of it. There are a lot of people to thank, and it's very humble to be here in front of so many guys that I know and played with and broke bread with, and so many coaches that I owe so much to. Dave Shannon and Augie Maselli obviously come to mind. I really appreciate everything they've done and their support. And of course, Gordy Combs wouldn't be where I am now without Gordy's support. We had the pleasure, Brother Kevin and I had the pleasure of going, poor old Mr. Heydrich, he missed this event Monday because he was doing his duties as a principal at school, but Brother Kevin and I were at the Unsung Hero Banquet this past Monday night out at Hunt Valley. McCormick sponsors this event. It's an incredible event regardless of who wins the award, because they're honoring all the right characteristics that we all enjoy. And it was a little more exciting this year because our kid, Devin Collins, won it. And it was just Devin is a real special young man. I work better holding this thing, if you guys don't mind. And I might start pacing a little bit. Well, if I talk... Devin, and I can project, so you guys are all right now. Devin is a guy that came from, really, the mean streets of Baltimore. Devin was basically homeless at age 12. Found his way through some great leadership, found his way to Calvert Hall. And he had no more right coming to Calvert Hall than I have graduating from Oxford University. Devin really wasn't prepared for Calvert Hall, but he had all the correct qualities. He walked in with a smile on his face, great manners, and just an appreciative young man for all the gifts that were given to him here at Calvert Hall. And, you know, when he won that award, I was more excited than, or as excited as I've ever been in any football game. And it just it kind of reassured me that I guess I'm doing it for the right reasons, because having a guy like Devin in your program has been an honor to me. And to see him kind of get vindicated or justified for all the work that he's done and all the hardships he's gone was very rewarding to myself and brother Kevin and the whole Calvert Hall community. It was great being there at this event because James Brown, JB, was the featured speaker. He threw a couple punches at you, Mel, but JB's quite a personality. I don't know if you guys know much about him. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. He graduated from math, was a basketball player, all-American basketball player, could have gone to a number of places in the ACC and played basketball. He went to Harvard. That's the kind of guy he is. And graduated and has been a success. And the thing that I really enjoyed about JB's speech was he started talking about fundamentals of successful people. And of course he was addressing the 120 or so student athletes that were in attendance. But I was writing them down, and I'll be doggone, it was the same kind of stuff that I throw in front of our football players every day, or every opportunity I have. And I want to read a couple of these things too, because for the next couple of minutes, I just want to share with you some of the ideas I share with our football program, because I really believe the things that we're teaching our guys is very important, and it goes well beyond the X's and O's that we teach. The first thing he talked about, he said, successful people rely on fundamentals. So, right, I'm a fundamental guy. I like that. Then he said, successful people have proper attire and are on time. And I'm grabbing our guys, if their shirts aren't tucked in, you know, some of the other students, Mr. Hodrick, I don't always ride that hard. But if our football players' shirts aren't tucked in, their ties aren't up, I'm riding on them. Because I think initial impression is important. Then he said successful people are on time. And when we have a meeting at 9 o'clock for a football program, if you're not in your seat by 5:09, you're late. And those guys don't understand that. They say, Coach, it's 9 o'clock, I'm here. Well, you're late. And I'm trying to teach these guys some successful skills. And JB taught me that I'm teaching the right things. Then he said, successful people have a thirst for knowledge. And immediately when he said that, I thought of you, Augie, and I thought of you, Gordy. Because those guys, they forgot more football than I know. But Augie and Gordy are at every clinic, they're in the front row, and they got a thirst for knowledge. They just want to learn. And those are the kind of guys I like to be around, and those are the kind of guys that I want our football program to model. And a thirst for knowledge is something that I hope our student athletes have in the classroom and in our meeting rooms regarding football. And we teach. To be a good coach in our program, you have to be a good teacher. And I want our guys to teach. We don't just roll the ball out and say, let's go get it. And we spend a lot of time teaching. So I want our kids to have a thirst for knowledge. And then the last thing he said, which I really liked, was successful people deal with adversity. And I don't think there's any greater quality than someone who can deal with some adversity, bounce back, and be better for it. Then I thought, okay, there's what JB says are successful people do. Now I was thinking, what do we teach our kids? And the first thing, I want to share with you, the first thing I told our football team 4 years ago when I met them in the spring, when I got the job at Calvert Hall. I said, here's our goals. And of course our goal, we want to win the MIA championship. I want to be Gilman in the worst blanking way. That's not our goal. Because all beating Gilman and winning the MIA championship and getting that gold jacket, that is a product of meeting your goals. That's the fruit that you're going to bear for meeting your goals. And our goals, and I told our guys first day, and I tell them all the time, I don't let them forget, I want us to be the most fundamentally sound team in the state of Maryland. And that means having a thirst for knowledge, taking a coach and getting coached well. I better remind our coaches that too. I want us to be the most fundamentally sound guys on defense, Coach Maselli. That's our goal. That's what I want. And the other thing, I want our guys to be the toughest football team in the state of Maryland. And they go, yeah, we like being tough. They think tough's cool. But tough, they don't understand what tough is. And I try to explain to them, tough is not necessarily dealing out whatever you want to deal out. Tough, think of what tough is to an offensive lineman. Tough to an offensive lineman is, it's not a fun job. Let me tell you, especially in the NFL. You get punched in your face, 7,500 times a game, and you got to take it. They deal with adversity. Toughness is being able to deal with adversity time and time again. And so I try to explain it.
We can hear. You gotta project it.
Coach, I love you. Just beat Loyola. There's going to be a very short testimonial here, and then just one more speaker. Rick Jocklish, 1976 graduate. Rick, where are you? Right here. Want to come on up while I'm introducing you? I was his freshman English teacher. I guess that would be 1972 or 3. Right. He now lives in Annapolis with his wife Michelle and sons David and Drew. Owns Jocklish Law Group. Rick has been the foundation's biggest contributor since 1996 when we started. And without his help, we wouldn't have had our tailback this year, who ran 154 yards in the Loyola game. So I introduce you to Rick.
When I first wanted to help Calvert Hall, I had to do a sales job with my wife. My wife is a circuit court judge in Anne Arundel County. I've been married about 14 years, and as the rest of the people in this room, in my marriage, I've lost every single tie vote of my entire marriage. But I used to drive back from downtown Baltimore, Thanksgiving early afternoon, in the early 90s, in a miserable, miserable mood. And I said, Shelley, I want to do something for Calvert Hall. I want to give them $100,000 to their football program so we can have dinner together on good stomachs. And she said, Calvert Hall, that's the best idea you've ever had. And I was really stunned. She didn't grow up in Baltimore. And I said, why? Why so easy? Why without the sales job? And she said to me, the first time I came to your house, I grew up in a family of 9 kids. Everybody was at the dinner table. Brother Gregory Cavalier was there, the priest was there, Brother Charles Philberg was there. You were out of school 15 years. How do you get brothers back like that who are such a member of your family? You took me to Calvert Hall. You're so proud of the school. I could see the teachers that had taught you that were still there. Dave Creighton, Augie Maselli. Just see how proud you were of the education you got. You want to give $100,000 to the school so you win on Thanksgiving. I want to give $100,000 to the school, she said, so everybody else who could never get into Calvert Hall and never have a chance to get that education can see what it's like to be a Calvert Hall man. And she said, Rick, every person you've ever introduced me to from Calvert Hall has absolutely their head on straight when it comes to God, country, education, community sacrifice, giving back. Everybody I've ever met I've been so amazed by. You don't get that in other schools. And she grew up in Washington, where she said, when people say, well, what school did you go to? They meant law school, they meant college. And she says, only in Baltimore, only in Towson, when you say, where'd you go to school? You guys are talking about the high school. And I said, well, what would it mean to you if I said, well, I went to Loyola? And she shrugged her shoulders and said, you couldn't get into Calvert Hall. When we first decided to give it to Calvert Hall, we gave it a pledge over 40 years. It was $2,500 a year because that was what the tuition was. And when I was at Calvert Hall, I had to pay my way in a family of 9 kids. It was $750 the first 2 years, $850 a year the second 2 years. Now it's $8,000. So my $2,500 doesn't go quite as far as it does. But at Thanksgiving this year, I was fat and happy at the table. And my wife said, is that money really worth it that you give? And I said, oh, absolutely. I'm getting 10 times my money's worth. So I'm here tonight to let you know that the money from this group goes to bringing in kids that could never have this Calvert Hall education without the help of this group. And people don't know why we have this here. You can figure it out now. There's an iron gate across the driveway. That's locked right now. Nobody's getting out until you pledge some money tonight. And what I'm asking people to do, I'm asking you to give $100 a month for 12 months. All of that money is going to go to bring kids in that could never, ever experience Calvert Hall without that kind of donation, without that kind of commitment from this group. And I can tell you, we got a report from the school this year. You talk about the tailback. And the report they gave us wasn't about his yards, it wasn't about his touchdowns, it was about his grade point average, it was about the teachers who had testimonials about what a great kid this was. Tell me, take credit cards, Tom.
I'm last, and I can tell you I'm not going to be the best. I was planning on reading. I can't read a thing because the light's not on. It's not working here. I want to make sure to give a lot of credit to Jay's wife, Diane Robinson, who really did all of the catering, planning, organization, working with Jay and myself, which is not an easy thing to do, to try to get things arranged. I don't think she's in the room here, but would you please give her our credit? This event actually happened because of one crisp Friday night last November when Coach and I sat in the team bus on our way down to Charles County to play a team called Southern High School. We were 8-1 at that time. It was a long bus ride. We had a lot to talk about. The Loyola game was going to be after the Southern game, so we talked about things. I usually like to just talk about the Loyola game, even though he had another team that night to play. Jay said to me, you know, we're having a great season, but these guys are all going to leave this year. And now people are going to expect us to stay 8-1, and that isn't going to happen if we don't get some tuition assistance for student athletes to help our program. I said to him, Jay, I can't believe that there aren't enough former football alums here at our school that aren't interested enough to come back and contribute to continue this program where it is. Coach, they're here. They've come back. I was right. This Cardinal Gold Football Foundation has actually been in existence since 1995. We have officers. I introduced them to you earlier tonight. We have bylaws. We have 501c3 tax status, so your contribution is tax deductible. We have members. We have a website, calverthallfootball.com. But what we don't have is your awareness, at least up until tonight, your awareness that we are here. In 1994, there were 500 former players who attended the 75th anniversary of that Thanksgiving game. And I knew that if you guys would come to that game that night knowing that 250 of those guys were from Loyola, that you certainly would come tonight when none of them were from Loyola. We need your help. But we also want you to have a good time. So we created, that is the committee, the officers, created this fundraising event so that we can also have a good social evening from it, and that's why we are here. Football at our school brings a bond that no other sport has. Football is the marquee sport at Calvert Hall. I think that you know that just from looking at the Thanksgiving game. If you're from the 1940s, you come back and talk about Johnny LeBrew's great run in 1943, while his offensive lineman stood there and watched while LeBrew zigzagged back and forth across the field to a touchdown in the Loyola game. If you're from the 1950s, you talk about Dave Parr, Jerry Gray, Parker McCourt, or the Kissing Tree that John Dowd has authored in our program tonight. If you're from the 1960s, you talk about that extra point kick that hit the crossbar in the 1966 City game and left us with a 20-20 tie. Coach Kern, that was his team, and I hope that he had been here tonight so I could introduce all of him, introduce you and he. Some of you know him, not all of you know him. That was Coach Kern's team. We talk about Marsiglia's 1969 42-yard field goal kick with no time left on the clock when we beat Loyola 17-14. And that trio is here tonight, and I've already introduced them to you. Joey Carlozo, that was your dad's team. Coach Carlozo's players are here in great numbers, and that's a great testimony to the love that they have for your father. Please pass that along to your dad. If you're from the 1970s, you may remember Steve Dorsey's 1975 open field run when he chose to run at and over the Loyola safety man instead of running right into the end zone for a clear touchdown. He ran at, over, and got the touchdown. If you're from the 1980s, you talk about the 1983 kickoff reverse with only a minute left in the game that went 80 yards and got us the winning score. Coach Maselli, that 1975 team, that 1983 team, they were your teams. If you're from the 1990s, you suffered through a drought, but each year we battled with the same tenacity, the same determination that those predecessors have had the 70 years before. Coach Mackley, you did experience a great victory in that Loyola series, but you had a lot of lean teams. We thank you for the effort, the hard work, and the hardship that you suffered through, and the sacrifice that it cost you for your business while you went through those years. But what do each of us really remember most? Coming out of the tunnel at Memorial Stadium, walking through the tunnel, hearing the people, knowing that all of these practices, all of these other games, didn't matter if we were 9-0 or 0-9, we had the war left.
I'm going to have to argue with that on the 9-0 thing. I'd rather be 9-0.
Did I interrupt you? I was thinking when I was over there listening to him say, I want to beat Gilman. I said to myself, Coach, that's not the team in the script that I have approved. Now may I go on? You know, when students at school pull this trick, they go to detention. As a faculty member, a former player, and a coach, I chaired this reunion because I really knew that we needed your help. Our tuition next year is going to be $8,050, not $8,000. Jay said. The foundation goal then, our goal for this group is to really get 2 new players a year to come into the program as freshmen. Now, that may sound easy enough, you say, to support 2 freshmen coming in, 8,050 times 2, you know, it's not that difficult. But we have to remember, we also want the sophomores and juniors and seniors who are moving up to still have that money that they need paid for. So it's not that easy of a task that I'm talking about. Calvert Hall itself has known about this group's special interest. We're not trying to compete with a capital campaign. We've always been very low-key in our approach. The foundation and its officers pledge that contributions received will go directly to the football scholarships, and it will be distributed by this foundation and paid for in behalf of a student athlete directly to the school for that student athlete. The aid is not going to go to buy jerseys. We're not going to go buying equipment. We're paying tuition for those students who need it. As I mentioned a little earlier, this past year, the scholarship that the foundation did give went on behalf to help the tailback. Actually, some other people too, but in particular the tailback. And you might remember the 154 yards that he ran in that Loyola game. He ran it that all season long, but maybe just the Loyola game that you saw. Here's my proposal. That is for helping the foundation. I have a 3x5 note card that was paper clipped in the program to an envelope. I know a lot of you have given me envelopes without the cards, and that's fine, but it would be very helpful to me if you could give me your email address. Almost all of us have an email address. The postage that we spent just to contact you about this event was over $200. It would be really very efficient for us to know where we can reach you with email. If you could also put your name along with your email, because some of you have funny email addresses like Joe D. Simone is called Pawn Shop Joey. Obviously, the caterer here at the Grey Rock Mansion has been paid by a personal commitment from the officers of this foundation. So we're asking for your help with a tax-deductible contribution made out to the Cardinal and Gold Football Foundation for any amount that you are comfortable with. Only you know what that might be. From the proceeds here, then, we certainly will pay the expenses of this event, and the balance will be put into an interest-bearing account. Sometime during the summer, I would expect the head coach would come to the organization and say, these two players are not going to be at Calvert Hall and want to be at Calvert Hall. They really are going to help our football program. Can your foundation help me? I think that this year we're going to be able to say that much better than we have even in the past. So inside that program is an envelope addressed to me. If you're able to leave us tonight with a contribution, put into that envelope, there'll be 3 locations that you can drop that off. Joe McCann is going to be up here near the podium with a box. My wife Cheryl and Patsy Ryan, Richard's wife, will be also there with a box in the front door. And Tim Thompson has a MasterCard Visa account. You might prefer that. That also is at the front door, which is another way that you can use, another method that you can use for contributions. Certainly we have receipts available. Some of us don't get our checks back when we write checks. We just have statements, and we like to have the receipt, and they will be able to write the receipts for you. I even have 2 pens that I had to put at the tables. So if you didn't think about that, that is there. I want to certainly thank our guest speaker, 1978 graduate Mel Kiper from ESPN. I want to thank head coach Robinson for his commitment to this football program. I'd like to leave you with a saying that a famous football coach used to post in his players' lockers. And it went like this. You come out of a meeting and someone asks, what happened? And the answer is, nothing. You sit in the legislative gallery and someone sits beside you and asks, what's happening? And you say, nothing. Maybe that meeting room and that legislative gallery should have had the same sign hanging on its walls. As the story goes, the college football coach pasted in his team's lockers, and the sign read, make something happen. He believed that if you didn't make that tackle, if you didn't make that block, the other team was certainly going to run all over you. He won more games during his lifetime than any other coach at that point in time. His name was Bear Bryant. So tonight I'm asking you, make something happen. Next year, please come back with one more person. I intend to make next year's theme Football Hall of Fame. We don't have one. Other schools do. I think we should. So since we have the internet, we have all of the teams' rosters posted on the internet throughout the course of this next year, and with your email addresses, I will be expecting emails from you say, hey, this is my vote. Now, if you vote for yourself, you might have to disqualify that, but I'll take a look at it. But we have the means to do it, and I think it would be very interesting for us to take that approach. This year's theme was on the program, A Hall for Champions, because we expect that to be the case. At this time, then, I'd like to close with a prayer, and then we are going to open up the doors. The night is open for the rest of the evening. Coffee, dessert is there. There are actually cigars also placed up in there in the room. Please just don't get near me with them.